Hello punters, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jay. If you're into movies and a laugh, this channel's for you. Still in lockdown, so no Mitchell. I believe he's out protesting with his new threads in style. Okay, so Quiet Place 2. This movie originally was meant to come out in 2020 and was held back for 14 months due to COVID. I was devastated. I was really looking forward to this movie, and much like a child, I get very disappointed when something gets in the way of me watching a movie I'm excited for. The movie is directed by John Krasinski, who also stars in the movie as the father. The movie kicks off with the opening scene of when the monsters come to Earth. The Abbott family are in the middle of a baseball game and they see a meteor slowly coming over the sky. Everyone disbands pretty quickly and the family head into town on their way back home to get supplies when they have their first encounter with the monsters. The monsters have no sight, but they have a really acute sense of hearing. They have really tough skin, almost like armor. The monsters become vulnerable when they open up their face, when they're trying to focus on their hearing. The movie is a direct continuation from the first movie. Evelyn Abbott, who's played by the beautiful Emily Blunt, is the mother of the household. She decides to go on a journey forth to track down some local settlements of survivors. They find these survivors in the first movie where they're lighting fires up on top of things, kind of like in Lord of the Rings when they're doing their beacons with the towers. They come across Emmett, who's an old friend, who at first is really reluctant to help them. He feels very jaded about the people that are remaining, and he lost his family as well, and he wants to get rid of the Abbotts ASAP. Regan Abbott, the daughter, becomes the main character of the movie. She decides to go on a journey one early morning to find this radio station that's across the water that's been broadcasting this song, something like Come Over the Sea. She leaves without telling anyone, and then Evelyn panics and convinces Emmett to go and chase her down and bring her daughter back for her. Emmett ends up catching up with Regan and decides he's going to redeem himself for the mistakes that he's made in the past to do with his families and the risks that he didn't take, and accompanies her to find a boat to make their way out to this island.
Like and subscribe.
There is so much to like about this movie. John Krasinski has done an amazing job. He was so close to not even directing the sequel in the first place. He didn't want to make the classic mistake that some movies do with their sequels. So the studio asked him to write an outline for the replacement director, and during this process he realised that he was writing and directing this movie. There are multiple great action scenes in this movie. One in particular, in the opening scene, Emily Blunt is frantically driving through the town after witnessing the monsters attacking, and there's a stuntman sitting on top of the car that's in a hub that has complete control of the car, and Emily Blunt went into the scene with no rehearsal because she wanted her reaction to be as organic as possible, and you really see that through the scene. And there's a bit where she's driving up the road and this bus is coming down at her. I think it's about 40 miles an hour, and that's real. Everything in the scene is real apart from the monsters. And holy shit, the acting was outstanding from all the cast. Cillian Murphy plays Emmett in the movie. You might recognise him out of Peaky Blinders. He plays one of the lead roles, one of the brothers. He's also out of Inception. He's the guy that Leo and his crew are trying to incept. His acting was on point. Millie Simmons, who plays Regan Abbott in the movie, steals the show. Phenomenal performance. She's deaf in the movie and in real life, and there's a couple of scenes where you have her point of view and her hearing as well, which Krasinski tried to make similar to how she hears in real life. I managed to coax my wife into watching the movie as well. She really doesn't like thrillers and horror movies, So it was quite enjoyable to see her reactions to the jump scares in the movie. There were times where she'd kind of get up and go do her own thing, but the movie and the story just kept drawing her back, and even though she was petrified, she couldn't get away from it. The movie will have you on the end of your seat with anticipation. Personally, there are a couple of times in the movie where there's so much going on and there's so much suspense that I'm stressing out and I'm thinking to myself, I'm really enjoying this, but I don't think I could handle this shit too much longer. If I really had to nitpick with this movie, I think the only part of the movie that I didn't like or it didn't make sense was one character in the movie in particular. He made this very instinctual decision and, you know, saved a bunch of people. But then very shortly after, he makes a decision that's a total flip-flop, and yeah, I'm like, that dude, that doesn't make sense at all.
That does not make sense.
I feel like John Krasinski and Jordan Peele are really setting the benchmark for modern day thrillers. And I'm really keen on seeing what John Krasinski can bring out in the future. We might get a third Quiet Place. I believe he's that good that it wouldn't be disappointing. I'm going to have to give the movie 4.5 Krasinskis out of 5. I love this movie and it delivered. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Cheers, guys.